The Galactic Trade Hub was the largest space station in the outer systems. It floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of glass and light. 3,000 aliens lived and worked there. They were called the Velari, and they were beautiful creatures with skin that looked like crystal. Light passed through their bodies and made them glow in soft colors. They were peaceful, intelligent, and very proud of what they had built. Commander Thylus stood on the main observation deck and watched the stars. She had commanded this station for 12 years. Nothing ever went wrong. The Velari were perfect engineers. They planned for everything, or so she believed. The explosion came without warning. Deep in the lower cargo decks, a plasma conduit cracked open. Hot gas escaped and touched the oxygen-rich air. In one terrible second, fire was born. Thylus felt the station shake. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Red lights flashed everywhere. She ran to her command center and looked at the screens. What she saw made her blood turn cold. Fire. Actual fire. Flames eating through her station like a hungry animal. The Velari did not understand fire. On their home world, the atmosphere could not support burning. They had never seen flames except in scientific studies. They had no word for firefighter. They had no tools to fight flames. They had nothing. Seal the lower decks. Thylus shouted. Evacuate everyone upward. Her officers tried. But the fire moved faster than they could think. It found air vents and crawled through them. It discovered storage rooms full of trade goods and exploded into new life. Within minutes, 7 decks were burning. The smoke was so thick that sensors could not see through it. Velari workers ran screaming through the corridors. Their crystal skin cracked in the heat. Their lungs filled with poison smoke. Many fell and did not get up. Others found themselves trapped behind walls of flame with no way out. Thylus watched her people die and could do nothing. Send a distress signal, she whispered. Send it to everyone. Anyone. Please. The signal flew out into space at the speed of light. It reached 100 different worlds. Most of those worlds had no answer. They did not know how to fight fire either. The universe, it seemed, had never needed to learn. But the signal also reached Earth. In the orbital station above North America. Captain Kevin Park was eating lunch when the alarm sounded. He put down his sandwich and listened. His team gathered around the communication screen. Velari Trade Hub, the computer announced. Class 5 fire emergency. 3,000 souls on board. No local fire response capability. Estimated time to total loss, 4 hours. Kevin looked at his team. They were 12 of the best firefighters Earth had ever produced. Lieutenant Amy Song was already pulling up maps of the alien station. Specialist Brian Cho grabbed his equipment bag. Rookie Danny Kim stood ready, his young face serious and determined. Veteran Emma Lee checked her gear with the calm focus of someone who had walked through fire 100 times before. 32 minutes to reach them, Amy reported. If we leave now. Kevin did not hesitate. Everyone suit up. We launch in 3 minutes. Sir, the station commander's voice came through the speaker. That's an alien station. Unknown architecture. Unknown materials. Unknown atmospheric conditions. This is extremely dangerous. Commander, Kevin said as he walked toward the shuttle bay, everything we do is extremely dangerous. That's the job. The shuttle was called Phoenix Rising. It was built for speed and heat resistance. The 12 firefighters strapped themselves into their seats. Danny sat next to Emma. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. First alien rescue, Emma said, noticing his tension. Nervous? Excited, Danny admitted. And maybe a little nervous. Emma smiled. She had gray in her hair and scars on her hands. She had been fighting fires since before Danny was born. Good. Nervous keeps you alive. Stupid gets you killed. Stay nervous, stay smart, stay close to me. Yes, ma'am. Kevin's voice filled the shuttle. Listen up. We don't know what we're walking into. Alien construction, alien materials, possible toxic smoke. But we do know one thing. There are people in that station who are going to die if we don't help them. So we go in, we find survivors, we pull them out. Standard protocols. Stay together. Watch your oxygen. And nobody plays hero alone. Understood? Understood, Captain. 11 voices answered together. The shuttle launched into space. Stars streamed past the windows. Ahead, growing larger every minute, the Valari trade hub came into view. Even from far away, they could see the orange glow of flames behind the station's crystal walls. Smoke poured from cracks in the hull. Danny stared at it. He had trained for years. He had studied fire behavior, rescue techniques, emergency medicine. But nothing had prepared him for this. A burning building in space. An alien species that had never seen flames. Thousands of lives hanging in the balance. Docking in 2 minutes, Amy announced. Station gravity is 0.8 Earth normal. Atmosphere is breathable, but filling with smoke. Temperature in affected areas exceeds 600 degrees. Brian let out a low whistle. That's cooking temperature. Then we better move fast, Kevin said. Before they're well done. The shuttle connected to the station's emergency airlock. The seal locked. The door opened. Smoke poured in immediately. Even through their masks, the firefighters could smell it. Strange smoke. Alien smoke. It smelled like burning glass and melting metal and something else they could not name. Kevin stepped through first. His team followed in perfect formation. They moved down the corridor, their heavy boots making solid sounds on the alien floor. And then they saw her. Commander Thylas stood waiting for them. Her crystal skin was dim with fear. Her eyes were wide with something that might have been hope. You came, she said. You actually came. That's what we do, Kevin said. Now show me where my fire is. Thylas stared at him. This strange creature from a strange world. So soft, so fragile looking. And yet his voice held no fear. He spoke of the fire as if it belonged to him. As if he had the right to claim it. She did not understand. But she had no choice. This way, she said, and led them toward the flames. Behind them, the airlock sealed. Ahead, the fire waited. And 12 humans walked forward to meet it. Commander Thylas led the humans through corridors filled with smoke and fear. Everywhere they walked, Valari workers pressed against the walls to let them pass. The aliens stared at the strange creatures in their heavy suits. They watched the humans carry axes and hoses and tanks of water. Such simple tools. Such primitive equipment. But the humans moved like they knew exactly what they were doing. The fire started in Cargo Bay 7, Thylas explained as they walked. It spread through the air vents to the surrounding decks. We have sealed what sections we can, but the flames keep finding new paths. Kevin nodded. He had seen this before. Fire was clever. Fire was patient. Fire always found a way. How many people are trapped? He asked. We believe 400. Perhaps more. Our sensors cannot see through the smoke. Then we find them the old way, Kevin said. With our eyes and our hands. They reached a junction where the corridor split in 2 directions. Both paths disappeared into darkness and smoke. The walls here were hot to the touch. The air shimmered with heat. Kevin turned to his team. Danny, Emma, take the east corridor. Clear every room. Check every corner. Brian and Amy, you're on structural assessment. Find out what's still safe and what's about to fall down. Everyone else, we push toward the main cargo bay. Danny felt his heart pound as he moved toward the eastern path. Emma walked beside him, her experienced eyes scanning everything. "Stay low," she told him. "Smoke rises. The cleanest air is near the floor." They moved into the darkness. Their flashlights cut through the smoke like weak swords. The walls around them glowed orange from the heat trapped inside them. Danny could hear the fire now. It roared somewhere ahead like a living beast. The first survivor they found was a young Valari curled in a corner. She had wrapped herself in a metal blanket, trying to protect her crystal skin from the heat. When she saw the humans, she screamed in terror. "It's okay," Danny said, keeping his voice calm. "We're here to help. We're going to get you out." The Valari girl did not understand his words, but she understood his tone. She let Danny help her stand. Emma guided them back toward the safe zone, moving quickly but carefully. They found 3 more survivors in the next corridor, then 5 more in a storage room. Each time, the Valari looked at them with the same expression of shock and wonder. These soft creatures were walking through temperatures that would kill a Valari in seconds. How was this possible? Meanwhile, Ryan and Amy were working on the station structure. The Valari had built their station from materials that Earth engineers had never seen. But fire worked the same everywhere. Heat expanded metal. Smoke filled spaces. Pressure built until something broke. "This bulkhead is going to fail," Amy announced, studying the wall with her scanner. "Maybe 20 minutes? A Valari engineer rushed forward. "Impossible. That bulkhead is made from reinforced crystal steel. It cannot fail." "Tell that to the fire," Brian said. "See those stress lines? The heat is making your crystal expand. Your steel is trying to hold it in place. Something has to give. Then what do we do?" Amy was already moving. "We create a fire break. Cut the fire off before it reaches this section. Do you have cutting tools?" The Valari engineer stared at her. "You want to damage the station deliberately? I want to save the station by sacrificing a small part of it. That's how fire breaks work. You destroy a little to save a lot." This was a concept the Valari had never considered. Controlled destruction to prevent greater destruction. It seemed wrong to them, but they had no better idea. While Amy directed the Valari in cutting a fire break, Kevin led his group toward the cargo bay. The heat grew worse with every step. Their suits began to show warning signs. Temperature rising. Cooling systems working hard. Oxygen being consumed faster than expected. "Captain," one of his firefighters reported, "I'm seeing flame temperatures above 800 degrees ahead." "I see them too," Kevin said. "Keep moving." They found the first major group of survivors barricaded in a shipping office. 40 Valari had crowded into the small room and sealed the door. The room was slowly filling with smoke that seeped through tiny cracks in the walls. Kevin used his axe to break through a ventilation panel. Fresh air flowed in from a section they had already cleared. The Valari gasped with relief. "Can he walk?" Kevin asked. The oldest Valari nodded. "We can walk. But there are others. Deeper in. We heard them calling before the smoke became too thick." "How many?" "Perhaps 100. Maybe more." Kevin looked at the path ahead. The cargo bay doors glowed red from the heat behind them. The floor was beginning to warp. Every instinct told him this was a death trap. He turned to his team. "Get these people to safety. I'm going deeper." "Captain, the readings. I know what the readings say. But there are people in there who are going to die if we don't reach them." "Amy, what's the status on that fire break?" Her voice came through the radio. 60% complete. Maybe 15 minutes. Make it 10. I'm going to need an exit route." Kevin moved forward alone. The heat pressed against his suit like a physical weight. His cooling system screamed warnings. His oxygen gauge dropped faster than it should. Behind him, Commander Thylas had followed against all advice. She stayed at a distance, her crystal skin already showing cracks from the heat, but she could not look away. She had to understand. Kevin found the trapped survivors behind a collapsed ceiling. 112 Valari, huddled in a space that was slowly becoming an oven. The children were crying. The adults were praying to gods that could not hear them. And then a human appeared through the smoke. He did not look like a hero. His suit was burned and blackened. His movements were slow from exhaustion. But he was there. He was real. And he was clearing a path through the rubble with nothing but an axe and his own 2 hands. "Come on," Kevin said. "Everyone follow me. Stay low. Stay together. Don't stop moving." 112 Valari followed this strange creature through fire that should have killed them all. They walked through flames. They breathed smoke that should have choked them. But the human led them safely through, finding paths that seemed impossible, creating openings where none existed. When they finally reached the safe zone, Commander Thylas fell to her knees. "How?" she whispered. "How do you do this?" Kevin pulled off his helmet. His face was red from heat. Sweat ran down his cheeks. He looked exhausted enough to collapse, but he smiled. "Practice," he said. "Lots and lots of practice." And then he turned back toward the fire, because there were still more people to save. 3 hours had passed since the humans arrived. 3 hours of fighting an enemy that never got tired, never stopped, never showed mercy. The fire had been pushed back from 7 decks to 4, but it had grown stronger in those 4 decks. It had found new fuel in the cargo bay. Trade goods from 100 worlds burned in colors that no human had ever seen. Danny stood at the entrance to the main cargo bay and watched the impossible fire. Blue flames danced alongside green ones. Purple fire crawled across the ceiling like living snakes. The heat coming from the room was so strong that his suit's temperature reading simply said error, because the numbers were too high to display. "Beautiful," he whispered. "Terrible, but beautiful." Emma stood beside him. Her suit was damaged in 3 places. Emergency patches held it together. She had not rested since they arrived. "That's the thing about fire," she said. "It doesn't care if you think it's beautiful. It will kill you just the same." Kevin gathered what remained of his team. 8 of them were still able to fight. 4 had been sent back with injuries too serious to ignore. Brian had burns across his arms where his suit had failed. Amy had breathed too much smoke when her mask cracked. They were hurt, but they refused to leave. "Here's the situation," Kevin said. "We've cleared everything we can reach through normal paths. But there's one more group. 60 survivors trapped in the central hub. The only way to reach them is straight through that cargo bay." Everyone looked at the burning room. The flames seemed to look back at them, hungry and waiting. "The temperature in there is above 1,000 degrees, Kevin continued. "Our suits are rated for 600. Cooling systems might buy us an extra minute or 2. Maybe less." "So it's suicide," Brian said. His voice was flat, not scared. "Just stating a fact. Maybe. Probably. I won't order anyone to follow me. This is volunteer only." Silence filled the corridor. The only sound was the roar of flames ahead. Danny stepped forward first. "I didn't come all this way to stop now." Emma moved to stand beside him. "Someone has to keep the rookie alive." Brian laughed despite everything. "Can't let you have all the fun." He stepped forward. Amy followed. Then the others. One by one, all 8 remaining firefighters volunteered. To walk into certain death. Kevin felt something warm in his chest that had nothing to do with the heat. Pride, love, respect. For these people who were willing to give everything for strangers they had never met. "Okay then," he said. "Let's go save some lives." They prepared carefully. Every suit was checked. Every cooling system was maxed out. They filled their tanks with the coldest water they could find and attached extra oxygen bottles to their backs. It would not be enough. They all knew it would not be enough, but they went anyway. Commander Thales watched from the safe zone. She had tried to stop them. She had begged them to wait for the fire to die down. But they would not wait. They said the survivors could not wait, so they could not wait either. She did not understand these creatures at all. The team entered the cargo bay in a tight formation. Heat slammed into them like a solid wall. Danny felt his suit begin to fail immediately. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed in his ears. But he kept moving forward. The fire surrounded them completely. There was no floor, no ceiling, no walls. There was only flame in every direction. They walked through a tunnel of fire that should have killed them instantly. Emma grabbed Danny's arm when he stumbled. "Keep moving. Don't stop. I can't see." His visor was fogging over from the heat. "Then follow my voice. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot." They pushed through rooms where the floor had melted into liquid metal. They climbed over piles of burning cargo that shifted and crumbled under their weight. Brian's gloves caught fire, and he beat them out against his chest without slowing down. Kevin led them by instinct and memory of the station maps. The smoke was so thick that his flashlight showed nothing but orange darkness. He found the path by touching walls that burned his fingers even through his gloves. "There!" Amy shouted. "I see the hub doors." The central hub was a dome of reinforced crystal at the heart of the cargo bay. Inside, 60 Valari waited for death. They had sealed themselves in when the fire started. They had water and air for a few more hours. But the fire was eating away at their protection. Soon, the crystal would crack. And then the flames would have them. Kevin reached the doors and found them sealed from inside. He pounded on the crystal with his fist. "Open up. We're here to help." A face appeared on the other side. An old Valari with dim, scared eyes. He stared at Kevin with total confusion. A creature from the fire? A demon made of smoke and flame? "Please," Kevin said. "Let us in. We're human firefighters. We're here to get you out." The word meant nothing to the old Valari. Firefighter. What was a firefighter? But he saw something in the human's eyes. Something that made him reach for the door controls. The seal opened. The team pushed inside. Cool air hit them like a blessing. 63 survivors, Emma counted quickly. "Captain, there are 63, not 60. There are children." Kevin saw them. Young Valari huddled in corners, their crystal skin pale with fear. Their parents held them close, trying to protect them from heat that could not be stopped. "Everyone listen," Kevin announced. "We're going back through the fire. Stay close to us. Do exactly what we say. If you fall, we will pick you up. If you get lost, call out, and we will find you. We are not leaving anyone behind." One of the Valari mothers spoke up. Her voice shook with terror. "You want us to walk through that? I know it's scary. I know it seems impossible. But we just walked through it to get here. We will walk through it again to get you out. Trust us." The Valari looked at each other. They had no other choice. They had to trust these strange, impossible creatures. "How do we do this?" The old Valari asked. Danny stepped forward. He had an idea. "We make a chain. Humans on the outside, Valari on the inside. We walk together. Our bodies will block the worst of the heat." Kevin nodded. "Do it." They formed a chain. 8 humans on the outside, 63 Valari protected in the middle. It was not perfect. It would not stop all the heat. But it was their best chance. "On my mark," Kevin said. 3, 2, 1, move." They walked into the fire. The journey back was worse than the journey in. The fire had grown. The path they had used before was now completely blocked. Kevin had to find a new way, making decisions in seconds that would mean life or death for everyone. A piece of ceiling collapsed ahead of them. Brian threw himself forward and caught it on his back, holding it up while the others passed underneath. His suit melted against his skin. He screamed in pain but did not let go. Amy's oxygen tank ran empty. She held her breath and kept walking. Danny carried a Valari child on his back. The little one had fainted from fear. Her crystal body was hot against his damaged suit. He did not put her down. Emma talked constantly, guiding the terrified Valari with her calm voice. Keep moving. Don't stop. You're doing great. Almost there. Keep moving. And then, finally, they saw the exit. Fresh air. Cool walls. Valari rescuers waiting with medical supplies. The chain broke apart as the survivors rushed to safety. The humans stood in the doorway, blocking the fire behind them, making sure everyone got through. When the last Valari child was safe, Kevin finally stepped back. The door sealed behind him. He fell to his knees. His suit was destroyed. His body was covered in burns. His lungs were full of smoke. But he was smiling. 63, he whispered. We got them all. Commander Thylas rushed to his side. You are injured. You need medical attention. In a minute, Kevin said. First, tell me, are there any more? She stared at him with something close to worship. How can you ask that? You nearly died. Are there any more? Thylas checked her datapad. Her hands were shaking. Yes, there is one more group. In the reactor monitoring station. 20 survivors. But the path is completely destroyed. There is no way to reach them. Kevin looked at his team. 8 exhausted, injured, broken humans who had already given everything they had. No way? He said, we'll see about that. And he started walking toward the reactor station. The reactor monitoring station was located in the deepest part of the burning section. To reach it, the team would have to pass through corridors that no longer existed, climb over wreckage that was still on fire, and somehow survive temperatures that their equipment could no longer handle. Kevin studied the holographic map that Commander Thylas had projected. Red zones covered almost everything. The few blue zones that indicated safe temperatures were scattered and disconnected. There was no clear path. The reactor itself is not in danger, Thylas explained. It has its own containment system. But the monitoring station where our workers are trapped has no such protection. The heat has already damaged their life support. They have perhaps 1 hour of breathable air remaining. Then, we have 1 hour to get them out, Kevin said. Amy looked at the map with tired eyes. Captain, I'm not seeing a route. Every path leads through a fire zone. Then we make our own path. Brian examined his damaged suit. The material was charred black in places. His emergency patches were barely holding. The burns on his arms were serious enough that he should have been in a hospital, not standing here discussing another suicide mission. My suit might hold for another 15 minutes in high heat, he said. Maybe 20 if I'm lucky. Same here, Emma reported. My cooling system is running on backup power. It won't last long. Danny checked his own equipment. His oxygen was low. His boots had partially melted. The visor on his helmet had a crack that was slowly spreading. But he did not mention any of this. We can do it, he said. If we move fast. Kevin looked at his team with something close to love. They were broken. They were exhausted. They had already done more than anyone could reasonably ask. And yet, here they were, ready to go again. I need to be honest with you, Kevin said. I don't know if we can survive this. The readings are worse than anything we faced before. There's active electrical damage, structural failure, and the fire has found some kind of fuel source down there. It's burning hotter than anything I've ever seen." He paused, making eye contact with each person. "I'm not ordering anyone to follow me. This is completely voluntary. If you want to stay back, no one will think less of you. You've already saved over 400 lives today. That's more than most firefighters save in a lifetime." "No one move? Well?" Emma said after a moment of silence. "Are we going or not?" Kevin smiled despite everything. "I guess we're going." They prepared as best they could. They shared oxygen between those who had more and those who had less. They patched each other's suits with whatever materials they could find. They drank water until their stomachs hurt because dehydration was a killer almost as deadly as fire. "Commander," Tylis watched their preparations with growing distress. "This is madness," she said. "You will die. The probability calculations are clear." "Probability isn't destiny," Kevin said. "We've beaten bad odds before. But why? Why do you keep going? You have already saved so many. Why risk everything for 20 more?" Kevin stopped what he was doing and looked at her directly. It was hard to explain. On Earth, this was simply understood. But she came from a world without fire, without firefighters, without the tradition of sacrifice that humans had built over thousands of years. "Because they're still alive," he said finally. "As long as they're alive, we have a chance to save them. And as long as we have a chance, we have a duty to try. Even if trying means dying, we all die eventually. The question is what we do before that happens." Tylis did not understand. She could not understand. But she could see that these creatures believed what they were saying with absolute certainty. This was their religion, their philosophy, their entire way of life. Run toward danger. Save lives. Accept the cost. The team moved toward the reactor section. The corridors here were worse than anything they had seen before. The fire had been burning for hours and had changed the structure of the station itself. Walls had melted and reformed into strange shapes. Floors had buckled and cracked. The air was so hot that it hurt to breathe, even through their masks. Danny walked beside Emma as they pushed deeper. His body was screaming for rest. His injuries were catching up to him. The adrenaline that had kept him going was running out. "You scared?" Emma asked. "Terrified," Danny admitted. "Good. Me too." They shared a moment of connection. Two humans far from home, walking into fire for people they had never met. It should have seemed crazy. Instead, it felt right. The first major obstacle was a collapsed section of corridor. The ceiling had fallen and was now blocking the entire path. Fire burned on both sides of the rubble. Brian stepped forward with his axe. "I'll clear a path." "Your arms," Amy started to say. "My arms still work. Let me do my job." He attacked the rubble like a man possessed. Each swing of the axe sent pain shooting through his burned arms. But he did not slow down. He cut through metal and crystal and burning debris until there was a gap just large enough to crawl through. They squeezed through one at a time. On the other side, the fire was even worse. "I'm losing suit integrity," one of the firefighters reported. "Maybe 5 minutes left?" "Stay in the middle of the group," Kevin ordered. "Let the rest of us take the heat." They rearranged their formation so that those with the most damaged suits were protected by those whose equipment was still working. It slowed them down, but it kept everyone alive. The reactor monitoring station was visible now. Through the flames, they could see the sealed doors. Behind those doors, 20 Valari workers waited for rescue or death. But between the team and the station, there was a gap. A section of floor had completely melted away, leaving a hole filled with liquid metal and fire. There was no way around it. Kevin looked at the gap. It was about 3 meters wide. Too far to jump with their heavy equipment. Too hot to cross with any bridge they could build. Ideas? He asked. Danny studied the situation. Above the gap, a thick pipe ran from one side to the other. It was glowing red from heat, but it was still intact. I can climb across that pipe, he said. Get to the other side, find materials to build a bridge. That pipe is over 500 degrees, Amy said. You'll burn through your gloves in seconds. Then I'll move fast. Before anyone could stop him, Danny jumped up and grabbed the pipe. The heat was immediate and terrible. He felt his gloves begin to melt as he pulled himself hand over hand across the gap. 3 meters. It felt like 3 kilometers. His right glove tore. Bare skin touched hot metal. He screamed but did not let go. Left hand. Right hand. Left hand. He reached the other side and fell to the floor. His hands were ruined. The pain was beyond anything he had ever experienced. But he was across. Danny. Emma's voice was frantic through the radio. I'm okay, he lied. Give me a minute. He found a metal sheet that had fallen from the ceiling. Using his feet instead of his damaged hands, he pushed it across the gap. It landed on both edges, creating a narrow bridge. It won't hold much weight, he warned. One at a time, move fast. They crossed one by one. The bridge sagged and groaned but held. When the last person was across, they ran for the monitoring station door. Kevin pounded on it. Open up, human firefighters. We're here to get you out. The door opened. 20 Valari faces stared at them. Some were crying. Some were praying. All of them looked like they had already accepted death. You came, one of them whispered. You actually came. That's what we do, Kevin said. The same words he had used when he first arrived. Now let's get you home. They began the long journey back. Danny walked with his hand wrapped in emergency bandages, the pain making everything feel distant and dreamlike. Emma stayed close to him, guiding him when he stumbled. The way back was harder than the way in. The fire was spreading. Structures that had been stable before were now collapsing. They had to find new paths, make new decisions, overcome new obstacles. But they kept moving, and one by one, they emerged from the fire. 20 Valari survivors. 8 human firefighters. All alive. All broken. All victorious. Kevin was the last to exit the burning section. As he stepped through the final door into cool air, his legs gave out and he fell forward. Commander Thylas caught him. You did it, she said, her voice full of wonder. You actually did it. Kevin looked up at her. His face was covered in soot. His eyes were red from smoke. But he was smiling. That's the job, he said. And then he passed out in her arms. The fire burned for another 12 hours before it finally died. Without fuel, without oxygen, without new paths to follow, it slowly faded from a roaring beast to a quiet glow to nothing at all. The Valari trade hub survived. Damaged, scarred, but still standing. In the medical bay, the human firefighters received treatment for their injuries. Their technology was different from Valari medicine. So Commander Thylas had requested emergency supplies from Earth. The transport arrived within 6 hours, bringing doctors, equipment, and a message of congratulations from Earth's orbital fire command. Kevin woke up with bandages covering most of his body. His lungs were damaged from smoke. His skin was covered in burns. 3 of his fingers were broken. But he was alive. How many? He asked before his eyes were fully open. Amy was sitting beside his bed. She smiled at his question. It was so typically Kevin, not asking about himself, not asking about his injuries, just asking about the people they had saved. 467, she said. That's the final count. 467 Valari survivors. Kevin closed his eyes. He let the numbers sink in. 467 lives. 467 families that would not have to mourn. 467 futures that would continue. The team? He asked. Everyone made it. Brian needs skin grafts on his arms. Danny. She paused. Danny's hands are pretty bad. They're talking about regeneration therapy. It might take months, but he'll recover? The doctors say yes, eventually. Kevin nodded. He could live with eventually. Eventually meant alive. Eventually meant hope. Over the following days, as the firefighters recovered, the Volari came to visit them. Not just officials or commanders, but ordinary people. Workers who had been trapped in the fire. Parents whose children had been saved. Elders who had watched the humans walk through flames. They brought gifts. Strange crystals that hummed with inner light. Foods that smelled like nothing on Earth. Art made from materials that humans could not name. But mostly, they brought gratitude. One old Volari woman came to Danny's bedside. She was the grandmother of the child he had carried through the cargo bay. The little one was recovering in another section of the medical bay, but she would live. She would grow up. She would have a future. The grandmother did not speak English. Danny did not speak Volari, but communication happened anyway. She touched his bandaged hands with gentle care. Tears ran down her crystal cheeks. And somehow, Danny understood everything she wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you for my granddaughter. Thank you for our future. Thank you. Commander Valis visited Kevin when he was strong enough to sit up. She brought with her a datapad containing information that she wanted to share. I have been researching your species, she said, trying to understand what we witnessed. Kevin smiled weakly. And what did you learn? I learned that Earth is a planet of fire. Your forests burn every summer. Your cities have burned throughout history. Fire has killed millions of your people. And yet, instead of running away, you created an entire profession dedicated to fighting it. Firefighting is one of the oldest jobs on Earth, Kevin agreed. Thousands of years old. But why? Other species on other worlds have experienced fire. They fled from it. They developed technologies to avoid it. They changed their environments to prevent it. Only humans chose to fight it directly. Only humans decided to run toward the danger. Kevin thought about how to explain something that seemed so obvious to him. On Earth, children grew up knowing about firefighters. They played with toy fire trucks. They dressed up in little helmets and coats. Heroes who fought fire were celebrated in stories and songs. I think it started simple, he said finally. Someone's house was burning. Their neighbor saw it and helped put out the flames. Then the next time a fire happened, more people helped. And eventually, it became organized, formalized, a tradition. But tradition does not explain the willingness to die. Your team walked into conditions that should have killed them. Multiple times. They knew the risks, but they went anyway. That's because it's not just a job to us. It's a calling. When you become a firefighter, you accept that you might die doing this work. You make peace with that possibility before you ever put on the suit. Silas shook her head slowly. This concept does not translate into Volari thought. We do not have a word for willing sacrifice. We do not have a tradition of running toward danger. Maybe you will now, Kevin said quietly. She looked at him with her strange, beautiful eyes. Yes, perhaps we will. 3 weeks after the fire, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from 100 species gathered to discuss what had happened at the Volari Trade Hub. The video footage of humans walking through fire had spread across the galaxy. Everyone had seen it. No one could explain it. A formal request was made. Could humans train other species in firefighting? Earth agreed. The first class of Volari firefighter candidates began their training 6 months later. They were taught by Emma Lee, whose lungs had healed enough for her to travel. She stood in front of 30 young Valari and told them about fire, its behavior, its dangers, its weaknesses. Fire is not evil, she explained. It is not your enemy. It is simply a force of nature that follows certain rules. If you understand those rules, you can predict what fire will do. And if you can predict what fire will do, you can fight it. The Valari students struggled at first. Their instincts told them to run from heat, not toward it. But slowly, with patience and practice, they learned. They learned to wear protective suits. They learned to use water and chemicals to smother flames. They learned to read smoke patterns and predict fire behavior. Most importantly, they learned to care about people they had never met. To run toward danger when every instinct said run away. To risk their own lives for strangers. Danny Kim came to teach after his hands had healed. The regeneration therapy had taken 8 months, but his fingers worked again. He was different now, quieter, more focused. The experience had changed him in ways that were hard to describe. He taught a class called First Principles of Rescue. It was about more than technique. It was about mindset, about deciding, before you ever faced fire, what kind of person you wanted to be. You will be scared, he told his students. Every time, you will be scared. That's good. Fear is your friend. It tells you what dangers to watch for. It keeps you sharp and careful. But how do you keep going when you're afraid? A young Valari asked. Danny thought about the cargo bay. The impossible heat. The child on his back. The pipe he had crossed with burning hands. You think about the people you're trying to save, he said. You think about their families, their children, their futures, and you decide that their lives matter more than your fear. 1 year after the fire, a memorial was unveiled at the rebuilt Valari Trade Hub. It was a pillar of crystal that could never burn, standing in the central plaza where thousands of people passed every day. 12 names were carved into its surface. The names of the humans who had walked through fire. Kevin, Park, Amy Song, Ryan Cho, Danny Kim, Emily, and 7 others who had given everything they had for people they had never met. Commander Thylas spoke at the dedication ceremony. Her voice was carried across the galaxy by communication networks that reached 1,000 worlds. 1 year ago, I learned something that changed my understanding of the universe, she said. I learned that there exists a species that runs toward fire, not because they are immune to it, not because they do not fear it, but because somewhere in their strange and wonderful history, they decided that saving lives was worth any risk. She paused, looking at the 12 names on the memorial. The humans did not know us. They did not owe us anything. They had never seen a Valari before that day. But when they heard that we were in danger, they came. They came, and they walked through flames that should have killed them, and they carried our children to safety on their backs. Kevin watched from the audience. He was fully healed now, back on duty, ready for the next emergency. Beside him stood his team, Amy, Brian, Danny, Emma, all of them marked by what they had experienced, but none of them broken. We used to think that we were alone in our battles against nature, Thylas continued. We used to believe that each species must face its challenges without help. But the humans have shown us another way. They have shown us that courage can be shared, that sacrifice can be taught, that the willingness to help strangers is the highest form of civilization. She turned to face the human delegation directly. On behalf of the Valari Confederacy, and on behalf of every species that has heard this story, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for showing us what bravery truly means. The applause started slowly and built to a thunderous roar. Species that had never agreed on anything stood together to honor 12 humans who had done the impossible. And somewhere in the rebuilt cargo bay, In a corner that had once been consumed by fire, a Valari child played with a toy fire truck that had been sent from Earth. She did not fully understand what it represented. She only knew that humans had saved her life, and that one day she wanted to be just like them. The fire could not burn that dream. Nothing could, because some things the humans had proven are stronger than any flame.